I was always the black sheep of my family. Growing up in a middle-class household in Ohio, my younger brother Ethan, 35M, was the golden child who could do no wrong. Captain of the football team, straight A student, charming personality that had our parents wrapped around his finger. Meanwhile, I was the quiet, nerdy kid who preferred computers and books to sports. My parents never hid their preference. "Why can't you be more like your brother?" became the soundtrack of my childhood. Despite the constant comparisons, I worked hard. I got a scholarship to a decent state college for computer science, while Ethan went to an Ivy League on our parents' dime. I met Sarah during my sophomore year at a campus coffee shop. She was beautiful, intelligent, and for some inexplicable reason, she chose me. We dated throughout college, and I proposed after graduation. My family seemed underwhelmed at the engagement announcement, my mother even suggesting we wait a few years before getting married. We didn't listen. Sarah and I got married in a modest ceremony that my parents complained about for years afterward. "Why couldn't you have waited until you could afford something nicer?" We settled into a small apartment, and I took an entry-level job at a tech startup while Sarah finished her master's degree in education. The first 5 years were good. Not perfect, but good. Sarah and I had our struggles like any couple, especially financial ones. My startup job wasn't paying much, and my parents never missed an opportunity to point out how Ethan was already making 6 figures at his finance job in New York. Every family gathering became an exercise in humiliation as they praised Ethan's latest bonus or promotion while barely acknowledging my existence. Things started changing when Ethan moved back to our hometown after a career setback he never fully explained. Suddenly, he was at every family dinner, dropping by our apartment unannounced, and texting Sarah constantly. I noticed them growing closer, but I trusted my wife and brother implicitly, a mistake I would come to regret. I was working longer hours, trying to climb the corporate ladder. The startup was showing promise, and I was putting in 60-hour weeks hoping for a promotion. Sarah seemed distant, but I chalked it up to stress from her new teaching job. I should have seen the signs, the late nights grading papers that never seemed to end, the new clothes, the sudden interest in privacy on her phone. The revelation came during a family dinner at my parents' house. Sarah had been acting strange all evening, avoiding eye contact with me. After dessert, she and Ethan stood up together, holding hands. "We have something to tell you all," Ethan announced with that signature confident smile. "Sarah and I are having a baby together." The silence that followed was deafening before my mother broke into tears of joy. My father patted Ethan on the back. No one looked at me. Not a single person acknowledged that my wife had just announced her affair with my brother in front of the entire family. I walked out of my parents' house that night without saying a word. No one called after me. No one apologized. Sarah moved out the next day while I was at work, taking most of our shared belongings. The divorce was quick but brutal. Sarah's lawyer, paid for by my parents, I later discovered, painted me as a neglectful workaholic who drove her into my brother's arms. The judge, seemingly swayed by her tears and my brother's polished testimony, granted her a generous settlement that emptied my savings. I lost our apartment, my dignity, and what little remained of my relationship with my family. My parents didn't even try to hide their allegiance, hosting a baby shower for Sarah and Ethan in the same house, where they'd once reluctantly hosted our wedding reception. The final insult came when my mother called to inform me that it would be best if I didn't attend family gatherings for a while to avoid making things awkward. Rock bottom came 3 months after the divorce finalized. I was living in a studio apartment, drowning in legal debt, eating ramen noodles most nights, and sleeping on a secondhand mattress on the floor. I considered moving to another state, changing my name, becoming someone new. But something inside me refused to give up. Instead, I doubled down on work. The startup was gaining traction, and I poured every ounce of energy into my role as lead developer. I took online courses at night to enhance my skills, networked with industry professionals on weekends, and volunteered for every challenging project that came along. My boss noticed. 2 years passed in a blur of code, coffee, and solitude. I didn't date. I didn't socialize much. But I built something valuable, not just in the company's product, but in myself. The pain of betrayal gradually transformed into a quiet, steady determination. Then came the announcement. Our startup was being acquired by one of the tech giants for an astronomical sum. As an early employee with significant equity, I was suddenly worth millions. The day after the acquisition news, my boss called me into his office and offered me a senior leadership position in the parent company with a compensation package that made my eyes water. I celebrated alone that night, toasting to my success with a bottle of expensive whiskey I'd always wanted to try but could never afford. For the first time in years, I felt a sense of vindication. Not because of the money, but because I'd proven to myself that I could rise from the ashes. The news of my windfall spread quickly in our small town. I should have expected what happened next, but it still caught me off guard when my phone lit up with a text from an unknown number. "Hey bro, it's Ethan. Heard about your big break. Really proud of you. Maybe we should catch up." Over the following weeks, the floodgates opened. My mother called tearfully, claiming she'd always believed in me, and suggesting Sunday dinner like nothing had happened. My father sent an awkward email congratulating me on finally finding success and mentioning his upcoming retirement. Even distant relatives who'd never spoken more than 10 words to me at family gatherings were suddenly reaching out on social media with warm messages and thinly veiled requests. Then came the email from Sarah. 2 years of silence broken with a subject line that simply read, "We need to talk." I met Sarah at a neutral coffee shop downtown. She looked tired, the polished appearance she'd maintained during our marriage now replaced with dark circles under her eyes and hastily styled hair. Beside her sat a toddler with unmistakable features, my brother's eyes, my mother's nose. "This is Emma," Sarah said quietly. "Your niece." The word felt like a slap. Not my daughter, not my family, my niece. The product of the ultimate betrayal, packaged in a tiny sundress with butterfly barrettes. Sarah didn't waste time with pleasantries. Ethan had lost another job. They were 3 months behind on mortgage payments for the house my parents had helped them buy as a wedding gift, something they'd never offered us. Emma needed specialized therapy for developmental delays. My parents' retirement fund had taken a hit in the market downturn. The story unfolded like a calculated pitch, culminating in what I'd suspected from the moment she contacted me. They needed money. "We're family," she said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. I pulled back before she made contact. "Despite everything that happened, we're still family. Emma deserves to know her uncle." I studied the child, who was innocently coloring on a paper menu, blissfully unaware of the history between the adults at the table. None of this was her fault. "How much?" I asked. Sarah named a figure that would have seemed impossible 2 years ago. Now, it represented less than 1% of my net worth. She followed with promises of repayment, suggestions of monthly visitation with Emma, and assertions that my parents were truly sorry for how things had transpired. I nodded, excused myself to the restroom, and took a moment to breathe. In the mirror, I saw someone different from the broken man who'd left his parents' dinner table 2 years ago. I saw someone who had choices. When I returned, I placed a business card on the table, not mine, but that of the financial advisor who'd helped me manage my newfound wealth. "I'm establishing a trust fund for Emma," I said calmly. "It will cover educational expenses and medical needs until she's 25. The money goes directly to service providers, schools, doctors, therapists, not to either of you or my parents." Sarah's face fell slightly before she composed herself. "That's very generous. But we also have immediate needs." "I'm not finished," I continued. "The trust comes with conditions. Neither you, Ethan, nor my parents will contact me directly again. Emma can reach out when she's 18 if she chooses. I'll attend no family events. I'll receive no holiday cards or birthday wishes. As far as all of you are concerned, I no longer exist." "But we're family," Sarah protested, her voice rising slightly. "No," I replied, standing up. "You made your choice about what family means 2 years ago. I'm making mine now." I reached into my pocket and placed an envelope on the table. "This is a one-time payment to clear your mortgage arrears. After this, the only financial relationship we have is through Emma's trust." Before leaving, I knelt down to Emma's eye level. "It was nice to meet you," I said softly. "Your trust fund advisor will explain everything when you're older." As I walked out of the coffee shop, I felt no triumph, no vindication, just a peaceful certainty that I was finally free. That evening, I finalized the paperwork for Emma's trust and booked a one-way ticket to Seattle, where my new position awaited. My phone buzzed constantly that night. Texts from Ethan, voicemails from my mother, emails from Sarah. I didn't read or listen to any of them. Instead, I packed my modest belongings, donated what I didn't need, and prepared for my fresh start. The next morning, as my flight took off, I watched my hometown shrink beneath me until it was just a speck in the landscape. I hadn't forgiven them. Perhaps I never would. But I'd found something more valuable than revenge, the power to write my own story, free from the people who never believed I could.